speaking of great, because we know that the three and David and Davies and Larin have looked fantastic when they represent the Maple Leaf. They come on in here. I guess, number one, were you actually surprised to see them come on in? And number two, what did you make of the way they played together?
I was a little bit surprised, but I think the way they are, they're winners. They wanted to be involved in the game. They wouldn't have come over here if they didn't. To see them on the field, just it's a testament to who they are and what they are as professionals. So they wanted to have a part in the game, and just to see the three of them come on after the seasons they've had and the belief that they bring to the group, not just the way they play, but the way they perform in training, the way they hold themselves up as professionals and champions. Like I said, they've all just won their leagues. Obviously, they come in full of confidence, and you could see it from the second they touched the field, and it lifted the team, to be honest. I think it was a dominant performance. There's no two ways about it, but the way, I think the pace they played the game, the way that changed as soon as Alphonso Davies stepped on the field, as soon as Jonathan David wanted the ball into his feet and turned and play. I think it was just a different step to how they played, and I think that's how they needed to finish the game, because they needed to show that they were still willing to bully Aruba, but it sets them up perfectly for Suriname, and they're not going to be an easy opponent. It's going to be the toughest game of the group, and they know that, and they know they had to finish this game the way they're going to approach the Suriname game.
It was certainly a thrill for everyone to see them get on the field. Ian, the goal scorers, you know this, goal scorers love their stats. But let's be honest, if you were on the bench, mate, you'd have been asking to come on in that game, wouldn't you?
100%. 100%. I'd have been warming up right next to the bench. It would have been one of those where Herdman wouldn't have. It'd have been tough for him not to see me warming up.
I hate to be the negative one here, Ian, but obviously we're seeing a ton of good things, a ton of things to be encouraged about from this Canadian team. Is there anything that's concerning you in particular going into Tuesday night?
I think they started the match, first 15 minutes, 20 minutes at least, they were very sloppy. And I actually wrote down, I'd write down jot notes during the game, and the field looked terrible. I'm not going to lie. It looked nice and short, but the bubble on the ground was very bad, and I don't think it's something that helped the way that they wanted to play, the way they've played over the last couple of games. I think they simplified things after that. Shorter passes were made, and they didn't try to do too many one-on-ones and beating people, and it was more one-twos, and they came into the game. I think the worrying thing for me is if they start like that against Suriname, you could get punished, unfortunately. They do score goals. It's not overly worrying. I think if Canada go out and perform anywhere near 75–80% of what they can, it should be a comfortable night. But again, if you do start off sloppy like that, and I think you could, like they left themselves at 1.3v3 when Aruba broke, and that's thankful they didn't have the firepower to punish them. But I think if you do that against a better team, it could be worrying. But yeah. I think they put things right at the end. I think they looked very, very comfortable second half, and looked to be having a lot of fun, which is nice to see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Canada doesn't want to play catch-up against Suriname, that's for sure. But we do have to talk about some injuries here, because we've been boasting about Canada's depth. But bottom line is you never want your depth tested unless it's on your own terms. But we know Atiba Hutchinson isn't here because of some injuries. And then in this game alone, we saw Hoylett leave and we saw Atakubi leave. Is that concerning at all to you?
I think the junior one concerns me a bit more. Like Gareth and Terry said, he's hardly played in this calendar year. Since Mick McCarthy came in, he's hardly touched the field. And this is his chance to get a bit of match fitness, and he did not look happy when he came off. So that's a little bit worrying for me. It looks like it could be something, I'd say almost definite out for Tuesday. Sammy didn't look too bad. He didn't look too upset. He just looked a little bit worried about maybe a little bit stiff or a bit of tightness come in. But yeah, the junior one for me, he's the one who I'd be looking at starting, if I'm honest with you. With Jonathan David, with Alphonso Davies, with Kyle Larin, I think junior would have been the experienced head that I'd have thrown in there to play with them. But it looks like that'll be out the window for him, unfortunately. Hopefully it's nothing too bad, because I know he's searching for a club. I'm sure he'll have no short list of takers, because he is such a quality player, but it'll be worrying for him going into the summer with that.
Ian, let's talk about Tuesday. Obviously, it's a tougher opponent. They said at mission 1, mission 2, almost 2 different teams. Players that maybe played tonight from the start might not play Tuesday. What do you think about Alphonso Davies then? Because Sam Adekubi did start, probably won't start now, maybe with his injury as well. Where do you think he might line up? And do you like him maybe playing at left back if that's the case, or even a left wing back against a team like Suriname?
It'll depend on the formation they go, obviously. He's the best left back in the world, so it's one of those. I love him at left back because he's such a threat and he knows his job defensively. I have this argument with Kurt Larson quite a lot because he wants him up front. I think when you've staked your claim in the best team in the world, I think your position's there. Obviously, we know the qualities he has going forward, but then the argument is, Cavallini scored 2 again tonight, and nobody's thinking twice about where he's going to fit into the starting lineup. That's this crazy thing. So potentially it could be a matter of finding a way to fit the Lucas up top with Jonathan and with Kyle, and maybe Fonzie plays left wing back. It depends on how John's going to set the team out, but when you've got that problem, when you're worried about playing the best left back at left back, I think it's a good headache for John to be having coming into Tuesday.
Agreed.
Tajon Buchanan, Ian, do you think he looks like a player who could be the next one maybe to make that jump to Europe? Do you think he's ready for that?
I think that's having watched the Olympic qualifiers, after he scored the 2 goals against Salvador, he was man-marked. He was double-teamed every time he got the ball. Seeing him in the men's team today, he was given the freedom because there's other people to worry about. So all of a sudden he has that freedom to go out and express himself, and I think today was an incredible performance. I thought when he was right back, him and Junior were causing so many problems down the right wing, and then when he moved up to right wing and Broguillard come on, the troubles were even worsened because there's more pace, more power, and the 2 of them were constantly causing problems. And Tajon ended up with, 2 assists? That's not a bad debut, to be honest, and I think he was a constant threat, and he looked a lot, for me personally, he looked a lot better and a lot more composed and a lot more assured of himself than he did in the qualifiers, even though he stood out in the qualifiers for the Olympics. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. He's got a tough nut to crack trying to get Richie Larea out of that right back spot. Yeah. Whether he's further up the field, I don't know, because Theo Corbianu came on and did very well again. But hey, I think it's the opportunity for him. If he continues playing, he's still really, really young. Like it's no rush. Continue getting first team games, and I have no doubt in the near future he'll be overseas. But he's definitely done no harm to his profile tonight, because I think he was for me personally, I think he was a standout on the field.
Ian, speaking of padding stats, how hard was Cavallini working there when he saw Kyle Larin on the side, knowing that he was going to sub in for him, and he wanted that hat trick? How hard did you see him work for that?
Yeah, and he had the opportunity as well. It was frustrating. The one where he's cut back to come to between the 18 or the 6-yard box and the penalty spot, and he's cut back. If he'd have gone back to the back post, like Terry was saying in the comms, it's a tap-in. But he did the one run, and it was there for him. But he worked hard. He worked very hard, and we know what he's like when he gets the bit between his teeth when he's in the 6-yard box and in and around the penalty spot. He just hits the target all the time, which is great. The criticism he got in the last round of qualifiers was right at the time, but we knew he'd come back, and he ended up banging in a hat-trick, and then tonight he gets 2, and it's just great. It's firepower beyond anything that Canadian soccer's seen for a long time.
Yeah.
Having those guys who know where the back of the net is, and they're confident. And so Lucas is playing for Whitecaps. He's not scoring as many goals as people would hope. But when you've got Kyle, when you've got Alphonso, when you've got Jonathan banging goals over in Europe, Lucas knows that when he comes with the national team, he has to score. Yeah. And it's great, because there's just so many options now. And I think it gives the depth that we continually talk about. It's something that we've missed for my whole generation. So to be coming through now, and they're all still so young, I think it's great. And I think it's roll on Tuesday, I say, because tonight was comfortable, even though they didn't play as well as they could. But Tuesday's going to be a bigger test for them. I think roll on Tuesday, and let's see how they perform.